It's a bridesmaid's dress. Someone loved it intensely for one day, then tossed it. Like a Christmas tree. So special. Then bam. It's on the side of the road. Tinsel still clinging to it. Like a sex crime victim. Underwear inside out. Bound with electrical tape.
That would be Fight Club.
You got it.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
Non mi piace il feeling. Spirit to something. I think this just might be my masterpiece.
Awesome. Welcome to episode 16 of the Average Joe's Movie Club cast. This is Justin.
And I'm Joey.
On this episode, we are upholding our honor as French gentlemen as we check out director Ridley Scott's first feature film, The Duellists, from 1977. Plus, we are heading up to Minnesota, don't you know, to see just how bad a kidnapping can go with the Coen brothers' epic classic, Fargo, from 1996.
And just a heads up, we do discuss our full thoughts on film, so if you have not seen a movie, just skip forward to avoid some spoilers.
And if you want to be a part of the club, make sure to mash that subscribe button, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. So that's so funny with the Fight Club quote at the beginning of the episode. Like I was like, oh, I knew I've heard that, and I was like scanning through like all my different memories, and I was like, oh yeah, that's her. Yeah, probably talking to Edward Norton in one of those really crummy house they have.
Yeah, no, I figured you would get it. I mean, as much as you like Fight Club and such, but I was like, maybe with it not being, Brad Pitt or Ed Norton, maybe it'll sneak by, but I figured you would get it. And I could see the look on your face. You're like, huh, and then you're like, I got it. So
you're locked in, yeah. Yeah, it kind of throws you off because you are talking about a Christmas tree for a moment. So you're kind of thinking Christmas movie, and then no, yeah. So awesome. So what's new in your world? We're solo again. It's the two of us.
Yeah, it's the two of us. Well, let's see. Since the last time, I had the flu. So I missed a little bit of work. Yeah, that wasn't a lot of fun. Which my whole house had the flu at one point or another. So me and Carl were both out of commission, just kind of blawing on the couch for a few days. It's like, oh man, I'm out of work. I'll watch a bunch of movies, and it was like, nah, I don't even feel like paying attention. One of the days I lost a whole day to the Benadryl coma. So, but now I'm up and running, just kind of working. I fell down the Bloodborne foxhole, and that's
a video game?
Yeah, that's a video game.
Okay.
The same people who did Dark Souls and Sekiro, it's the kind of like gothic Victorian one. Okay. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. So.
Can you believe it's almost been the 1 year anniversary of the show? That's coming up on February 8th. It's been a year since we started doing this.
Dude, that's nuts. Like, you would think we'd hit the whole list by now, but I think we've had like 3 different almost 1 month gaps. So
yeah, there's definitely some holes in there, like during summer break and then getting our guest organized. We took a few extra weeks off, but we like to hit our every other week stride occasionally. Plus, we
Yeah,
had some special episodes.
yeah, Christmas threw everything off like Black Friday and then Christmas and I think like there was the summer where like you went on vacation and then I went on vacation like back to back and so
And plus, like in the early days of the show, I really wasn't happy with like how the recording was going, and so we really needed to find the right tool in order to like make me happy. And then we finally found that, and yeah, we just keep sprucing it up from there. And then I got out of the habit of listening back to the entire show and like cutting out every little and fumble. So pretty much let things fly these days, and hopefully, with some reason. But so I guess football season didn't end the greatest for you, but I think they did their all to give it a go against the LSU.
yeah, dude, Joe Burrow turned out to be the truth. Those boys down, it's still fake Death Valley, but those boys, they came out and showed out and we still won like 29 games in a row or something. So I mean, that's nothing.
Oh yeah,
That's nothing to bat an eye at. And your boys from Minnesota, they didn't end their season didn't end well, but they still ended up in the playoffs. So
yeah, I thought they did respectable against the Niners. Like I wasn't really expecting to win that game, but I mean they kind of held tough all the way to the fourth quarter, and then it was like obviously that they got outmatched. But I was very glad the Packers got beat is in the same fashion.
I mean, yeah, you can't root for your rivals, so that's understandable. I mean, I was rooting for the Pack. I mean, I like Aaron Rodgers, and even though I don't really pull for I don't really do pro football too much. I mean, I grew up in a household where me and my dad were big Cowboys fans, and my stepmother and my stepsister were big Niners fans, and
Okay.
being a '90s Cowboys guy, the Niners were like
Yeah,
our big rival.
I
So
remember those
it
days.
was
That's when I first started getting into football.
so like I still just I can't pull for the Niners. So
Ah,
so yeah, that does mean I really wanted the State Farm Super Bowl. The Packers and the Chefs. Harken back to Super Bowl one, but sponsored by State Farm, Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes throwing it all over the place. But we're gonna get the classic matchup of defense versus offense, and we'll see what happens.
yeah, I hadn't really been interested in the Super Bowl the last couple of years. I've been kind of watching movies instead of watching the game, but I'm kind of interested to see how this one goes down. So I'll probably watch a little bit more of it. All right, so let's get into talking about movies, and that begins with our movie night pick'em game. And so last time we introed this, you went first, and so now it'll be my turn. And so I was thinking about this on the way to work today, and I was like, why not harken back to the early days of our friendship? So, Joey, if we were sitting there together, and I was like, do you want to watch this one or that one? What would you pick? And I was thinking about, would you rather watch Goodfellas or The Boondock Saints?
Oh, man. I mean, it's really going to depend on my mood, but I mean, just in a vacuum, when I had to pick the Boondock Saints, I mean, on Letterboxd, I have it listed as my second favorite movie. So, I mean, I guess I have to pick, like, Boondock Saints. But, like, fudge, man. Like, Goodfellas is so good. Like, but, like, I mean, I have to pick Boondock Saints. Like, I generally watch it every St. Patty's Day.
Okay.
Like, if I'm feeling bad, like, I watch it. I'm also Irish. Like, so, like, yeah, I guess I just have to pick that one.
Yeah, I
But
saw.
not because I don't like Goodfellas.
Yeah, I saw Goodfellas last year for the first time in a long time. In my Letterbox era, so I hadn't watched Boondock Saints yet in the Letterbox era. I've only seen Boondock Saints twice. The once with you, and then me and my dad had a few drinks and watched it. And dang, that was a good time, a good second watch. Were you as insulted by Boondock Saints 2 as I was?
Oh, yes. Like the joke is that movie doesn't exist. Like obviously like it's on my shelf, but I remember the last time I watched that. me and my buddy Dave, like he hadn't seen it, and so we're watching at his house, and like we were both like part of the way up, just like we're about to like, yo, we're gonna leave and go get some food. Like not like we didn't, but like we were like we're just gonna leave it on, and like El Duce's backstory in it was like the only thing worth a damn, and the thing hit all across the internet. They confirmed 3, and it's like part of me is like, yeah, okay, fine. I mean, I'm gonna go see it, but the other hand, it's like this was a movie that never needed a sequel. It doesn't need to be a trilogy. Um, and they waited like 10 years between the first one and the sequel, and now it's 11 years, and they're gonna start filming, and so it's gonna be 12 or 13 years. Uh, like they can't. I don't think they can recapture that magic, that lightning in a bottle that made that movie like that big cult hit.
Well, the thing that got to me about Boondock Saints 2 is it was like they were parroting like the first one. I was like, you don't need a. What's the purpose of making fun of such a badass movie? It just didn't make sense to me.
It was like they tried to make it the exact same and different at the same time, but like Rocco not being there, you lost some of that chemistry. Like the guy, like the Hispanic guy, just he didn't have the same chemistry. And Julie Benz, and I love Julie Benz because she was in Buffy and Angel and all of that, and Dexter. Like her southern accent was not very good, and she just I don't know, like the cops working with them the whole time and like rearranging the crime scenes and all that, like it just I don't know, it doesn't have the same thing. Like I don't know, whatever Boondock Saints has, that it thing, it Boondock Saints 2 doesn't have it. And like I'm not usually not one to say this, but like if you like Boondock Saints 1 or you love it and somehow since 2009 you have not seen Boondock Saints 2, for the love of God, just don't. Just don't. Because like Justin said, he was offended. I was offended. Everybody I know that has seen it was offended. So just don't.
All right, so let's move into what we have been watching lately with our The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly segment. All right, Joey, I had actually forgotten to write down what my categories were for this segment, so I just came up with something on a whim. So what are your 3?
I have fun, great, and meh.
Okay. I have the, oh my God, I just saw that, the tasty but weird, and the hype is kind of real.
Okay.
Let's hear about your meh movie.
All right, so meh was Dark Phoenix.
Okay.
I mean, I've watched all the X-Men movies. I own them all. Even the Wolverine, the 2 bad Wolverine movies, or the bad one, the okay one, and the good one. But so I picked this up on Black Friday for like $4, and I just got around to watching it. I guess it was worth $4, but my review is more like conflicted Phoenix. Like there was nothing in this movie where she went like completely dark and just started kicking everyone's ass and shit. Like, yeah, she beat some people up. Yeah, she kills J-Law, so Mystique, Raven. But not like out of vengeance or anger. She's just confused and wants to know what's going on and doesn't have any clue. And then, this isn't a Bryan Singer X-Men. It's some other rando, and the script's not very good. But you have good actors. I mean, you have James McAvoy, and you have Jennifer Lawrence, and Sophie Turner's not great, but she's not terrible for most of her career. She's just been Sansa. And then you have Michael Fassbender out here trying to act like he's in, some Academy Award-winning movie. But it's pretty. All the action sets and everything are, of course, pretty. And Jessica Chastain's in the movie too, as we referred to her as Blonde Girl the whole movie because we didn't recognize her. But it's very meh. It's just very meh.
I have a weird X-Men relationship, because while most people just like salivate over Wolverine, like I've always like liked Wolverine, but always thought he like, why does he have to be the center of every single one of these movies when this is a team concept? So I was always annoyed by Wolverine. So I always tended to like the X-Men movies that didn't focus as much on him, even though I guess Days of Future Past, like he's definitely there, but it's not all about him. So that's why that's one of the best ones for me. I thought Apocalypse was entertaining. Still haven't seen Dark Phoenix, but yeah, we could go way off in a rabbit hole with X-Men. So I guess we should probably move on.
Fair enough. All right. So you had Tasty
The Tasty But Weird.
yeah, let's go with that one.
I finally watched Tampopo. Have you heard of this movie?
I have not heard of it, but I definitely saw that you wrote a review about that one.
Okay, Tampopo. So this is described as the ramen western. It's been kind of a while since I've seen it. Oh wow, this movie's so weird. It's so geez, how do I even begin to describe this movie? So it begins with these like truck drivers, and they like introduce the idea of like how sacred eating ramen is to the Japanese, like in a story. And then all of a sudden they stop at this ramen place, and it turns into this whole thing where like these guys are gonna make this poor lady have the best ramen joint in town. And then there's like all these like side vignettes where like there's like a real funny one where like there's this like etiquette lady, and she's like, no one shall make a sound while they're eating their ramen. And then a few seconds later, everybody's going. I mean, the sound in this movie is just crazy with the slurping. And then they like compare like food to sex, and like they have this really weird scene where like these two people are making out, and they're like swapping this egg yolk back and forth, and it's kind of an analogy for, you know, climaxing, because at the end the egg yolk busts and goes all over the girl's face. It's a wild time, very entertaining. I definitely recommend, you got to see Tampopo at least once.
Dude, that sounds really out there.
Oh yeah, it's not House out there. I think it'd be a little bit more down to earth for you compared to something like that. But yeah, it's a weird one. But I think the Western element's a little bit. I mean, I kind of get why people call it a Western, but I think that's a little bit. You're missing the point if you're focusing on it being a Western. All right. You said you have a good.
I have a fun and a great.
Okay, let's go to great.
Great. All right. That one was Zombieland Double Tap.
All right.
And anybody knows me knows I love the first Zombieland. Go figure, it has Emma Stone in it. So oddly enough, this parallels to what we were just talking about. So unlike Boondock Saints and Boondock Saints 2, where they took a decade in between movies, this one, the sequel, actually manages to capture everything about the first one that made it great, and then add to it. So you still have the same four original characters. You take their chemistry, it's great. Woody Harrelson, okay, well, it's Woody Evan Harrelson, he's great. And they take on it, they add some new characters, it's just over the top. It's that horror comedy that you had in the first one. It's just been 10 years now into Zombieland, and now you have a cool cameo from Luke Wilson, you add Rosario Dawson. Like, I was laughing pretty much the whole time. So if you like Zombieland and you didn't see Zombieland Double Tap last year, you definitely got to see it. Plus, it has Emma Stone, and she's a complete goddess, and yeah, so.
Yeah, it's on my watch list. Definitely trying to get to some of like the more acclaimed movies, but yeah, I should definitely take a step back and watch some of the fun stuff as well. So.
I mean, yeah, I went and like got it on Steelbook. I pre-ordered it and got it on Steelbook the day it launched because I didn't get to see it in the theater, unfortunately. So,
have you seen the whole? Was it the Cornetto trilogy?
The what?
The Cornetto, that's the Edgar Wright trilogy with Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's Not Enough.
I have not, because like we've discussed, horror comedy is kind of hit or miss for me.
Okay.
And the first time that I saw whichever one was the first one, I guess Shaun of the
Shaun of the
Dead,
Dead. Yeah.
that the advertisements for it, that looked like one of the worst things ever. And I have a friend of mine, it's like one of her favorite movies because she loves horror and she loves
Hmm.
everything British. And that's all she's been trying to get me to watch is Shaun of the Dead for like 6 months, a year, I don't know, some amount of time. She's like, "Yo, watch this movie," and I'm like, "Nah, fam, I'm good," because I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it. But
Yeah, so
so
that's kind of a series of movies I think of whenever like kind of like Zombieland, to where it's it's fun, like action comedy kind of stuff. Yeah, Hot Fuzz, like I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was great. I had a lot of fun with Shaun of the Dead, and the whole where I was going with this is I have never seen The World's Not Enough, but you doesn't sound like you've seen any of them. So
not a single one.
moving on. Okie
All
doke.
right.
So I have okay. You remember mine, or you
No,
might
I
be
was, I
looking
was,
at the script.
I was, I should be. I was actually looking at. Let's see. No, you don't have them on
Okay,
mine.
so I have the hype is kind of real, and oh my god, I just saw that.
Okay, so we'll go with. Oh my God, I finally saw that.
All right, so on a whim, I finally decided I was going to buckle down. I didn't care how long it was going to take me. I was going to enter the world of Bellatar and watch the 1994 film on the like BFI list of greatest films ever, Satan Tango. And this beast of a movie is 7.5 hours long. I was like, I'm going to take this down. It took 6 nights of watching it. Wow, Satan Tango. Okay, so this movie definitely doesn't need to be 7.5 hours long because it is like filled with all these ridiculous long takes. Like the opening scene, it like opens up and you see a barn and some like cows, and then after like 5 minutes, it kind of like has panned over a little while and the cows are moving, and there's a couple sections of the first half of this movie where I kind of watched it and like slightly speed up, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely getting the point of this, but it's going by just a scotch faster. Gosh, so much to talk. It's there's so much to talk about, but at the same time, not that much because I mean it was kind of strangely funny because there'd be moments where like since I edit a lot of video, like I know where where I like to see things get cut, and it would just keep going and going and going. Like, and it got really weird towards like the third because it's split apart into three different acts, and there'd be like sequences where like these people are just walking down the street talking for like on and on and on, and then like when they're like at least like a half a mile down the road and they're still walking and talking, like you still hear their like footsteps like really loud and them talking really loud, so it's a little surreal, like because like I guess the whole reason like they do this whole long take thing is to make it feel like you're in the mundane lives of these people. And I guess I'm not even giving you a real synopsis of what this is about. It's about like in Hungary, I believe it is, like towards the late 80s, and this like farm community in like communist USSR has basically collapsed, and they're living in just like squalor. This movie's really notorious for the middle section because this little girl basically, because she like feels like she kind of gets pushed around by her family, and so in order to have some like power in her life, she decides to abuse a cat, which rubs a lot of people the wrong way. It's a little challenging to watch, but I actually found it the most captivating part. Yeah, this thing is so wild. Yeah, 7.5 hours a movie where you're mostly watching just really, really, really long shots. One of these days, I'm gonna have to recommend you watch a Tarkovsky film because Tarkovsky feels like Bellatar light. So I guess I'll leave it at that. It's a really weird one. Check out my Letterboxd review to get more into it. But it's so bizarre how it's so long and slow, but at the same time strangely funny and uncomfortable. So yeah, there's a 20-minute scene where like people start dancing, they stop dancing, and they start dancing again. And so yeah, that's Satan Tango in a nutshell.
Good Lord.
All right, you're fun.
My fun. I didn't mean to do this, but this is also from last year, so all three from 2019.
Okay.
Is Ready or Not.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah. So another horror comedy.
Okay, it's a horror. Is like a. Yeah, give me the gist of this movie. Is this like it kind of looks like Kill Bill on the outside, rape revenge kind of thing?
So you have Samara Weaving. Most people might know from the Babysitter. She is married into this family, and on the night of her wedding, her husband's family, they have to play a game, and her husband's family is they're really rich from doing games, not real games, but whatever games, board games, etc.
Okay.
And they have to pick a card. She has to pick a card out of this device, and whatever game they pick, they play, whether it's chess, checkers, backgammon, Uno, whatever.
All right.
But if they pick, so she picks hide and seek,
Okay.
and so she has to hide while they all find her, including her husband. But of course, he's trying to help her. The whole family's trying to get her. She's trying to survive through the night. And they keep saying that if they don't kill her in this sacrifice by daylight, they're gonna die. He's gonna get them, and they don't really say who it is, but it's heavily implied that it's Satan. And then come to find out at the end of the movie, it is very much in fact Satan. It happens because like the father-in-law's grandfather, great grandfather, I don't remember specifically, one of his elders made a deal with the devil for riches, and then it's every so many generations or so many marriages they have to play this game and sacrifice the bride. Basically, they have to find her, sacrifice her, yada yada. So I mean, it was mostly fine. Like obviously, it's not high cinema or anything like that. But I like the few movies I've seen Samara Weaving in, and there's some good spots of horror and suspense. There's lots of blood and gore, some good comedy. There was a couple places where they did like some timing issues, where they weren't doing supernatural stuff. It was the humans, and it was like, that's not right. But it's a movie, and some movie timing isn't always accurate. So whatever. It wasn't a realistic movie, so that doesn't super matter.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was enjoyable. So if you're just looking, for something dumb, silly to watch, and you don't mind blood and gore and all that kind of jazz, then this is definitely worth watching.
Yeah, sounds a lot different than I thought it would be. All right, so my last one, the Hype movie. So I finally saw 1917. I was really excited to see this after I saw this was going to be like this one take war movie deal shot by Roger Deakins. That's right. Okay, so there's this. This is actually one of the big favorites for Best Picture at the Oscars. That and Parasite. I'm more of a Parasite fan myself. So I guess right up front, my problem with 1917 was the fact that I really didn't feel that connected, like with the main character, and it kind of felt like a video game, to where like, they're going along, and all of a sudden there's like a plane about to like wreck into them, and then this happens and that happens and this happens and that happens, and you never really felt like you had a time to really like sit down, breathe, and it feel like a real moment. Now, devil's advocate to that is that they're on this like mission that needs to happen like right away in order to save like all these soldiers from like going into an ambush. So you have that aspect to kind of like counteract. I probably need to watch it again. I guess I was just looking for that kind of like emotional pull in the movie. And I think it's more of an experience to where you're supposed to kind of put yourself in the position of this guy as he's going through all these things. But I mean, it's definitely a technical achievement. I mean, there's this part where like they venture out into no man's land and there's all this mud and barbed wire and it just looks immaculate, like exactly how it probably looked. You haven't seen Paths of Glory yet, have you?
No.
Okay, that's the Kubrick World War One film. There's some kind of reminiscent moments from that because they're like walking and talking and they're in the trench and it's following them along the whole time. Yeah, 1917. I thought it was an excellent film, but it just didn't hit me in the feels like I wanted it from a war movie. I mean, probably 3 years ago, I probably would have thought this was like a masterpiece, but I don't. Since I've gotten more interested in like needing a movie to like move me in order for me to really, give it those higher ratings. I didn't really get that vibe from it, but it's been, there's been a lot of people on Letterboxd come at me with like, oh, well, I thought this and I thought that. And like at one point I had mentioned that the whole like one shot thing is a gimmick, which I mean, it is a gimmick because a gimmick is whenever a film is made in a unique way that garners attention for that unique way. I mean, a gimmick doesn't necessarily have to mean it's a bad thing. It just, it's a unique thing essentially. But some people thought hearing gimmick means gimmicky, negative. Didn't necessarily mean it that way. So yeah, 1917.
Yeah, that's one I kind of want to watch, and I haven't yet. So I couldn't watch it, so I watched Dunkirk instead because I hadn't seen that before. And I think you read my review on that, and I kind of sounds like I had some similar feels where I didn't really feel connected to anybody. Mm-hmm. But I guess maybe kind of the idea, especially if you watched it in a theater, was that you're immersed in it and it puts you in there, kind of.
Yeah, I definitely got. So. Dunkirk was. I saw that on an IMAX, so yeah, I was definitely plugged into Dunkirk, and I was like sitting like almost the front row, and yeah, being like in the airplane in that movie. I need to watch it again. I have it on 4K. I've been meaning to watch it again for the longest time. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that compares for me. All right, so keeping the show moving along, let's go into our movie club pick of this episode. Now to our feature, The Duelist, which is a period piece from director Ridley Scott. The synopsis from IMDb this time. In Napoleonic era France back in 1801, due to a minor perceived slight mild-manner, Lieutenant de Humbert, played by Keith Carradine, is forced into a duel with a hot-headed, irrational Lieutenant Ferrard, played by Harvey Keitel. And the disagreement ultimately results in scores of duels spanning several years. All right, so the reason I put this on my Letterboxd list a year ago was the fact that, I really dig Ridley Scott films. Alien's great. Blade Runner grows on me the more I see it. I love Gladiator. I didn't realize he actually directed Black Hawk Down. But yeah, he makes some solid flicks. Absolutely. So I was really curious to see his original outing. And it's a great film. And I heard a lot of great things about it. So I'll turn it to you. Where do you want to start with this, with The Duelist, Joey?
Oh, man. So I love Harvey Keitel. Mm-hmm. He's the wolf. Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we didn't call him Pharaoh or Pharaoh during the movie. We called him the wolf the whole time. The wolf. The wolves coming directly.
We really need to do a movie commentary because these interactions you and Carl have, I need to be a fly on the wall at some point with this.
Yeah, probably. Yes, and for the record, anybody who's new or doesn't, when I say we, I do mean me and my roommate Carl, who heard me refer to as Night Flyer. Which you can find him on Letterboxd under that. But I watch almost all of these movies with him. So yes,
Happy birthday to him, right?
Yes, it is his birthday. Well, I guess not now as we're recording, but yes, it was until
3
just
minutes
a few
past.
minutes ago.
Yeah,
yes,
belated.
happy birthday to my roommate Carl. So the movie starts out and you just see Harvey Keitel it starts out with like 500 geese and a little girl.
Yeah. Very 70s looking.
Yeah. And then Harvey Keitel shows up and just murders this guy in a duel.
Yep.
And then they're at like a party or a ball or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Keith Carradine.
Aristocrats. France.
Yeah, not David Carradine, not Kung Fu, not Bill.
Is that his brother?
I think so. They're definitely. I'm pretty sure they're related. They look similar, especially if you've seen Keith Carradine in like Dexter and Big Bang Theory and that kind of stuff. When he's older, they definitely look similar.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah. It took me a second when he had the hat on to recognize him. I was like, wait a minute.
Those hats, though. Oh my god. I mean, I'm a marching band geek, so I like Shakos, but man, these things were like towering over their head and like barely on their head at the same time. And I mean, it's almost like the period like costuming in this movie went to like the absolute extreme to like kind of ridiculous levels.
I mean, hey, we've seen the stuff Ridley's done. That's not surprising. And some quick researching by Carl as he's shot me a message. They are, in fact, brothers. So, kudos.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah, the braids, the braids down the front for like most of the movie.
Yeah.
Are both guys. Different times. The movie was based on reading what you've put. I think we're gonna really agree on a lot of this stuff. The fights were pretty decent. There's nothing wrong with them. The sound on them was good. The movie from a technical standpoint was fine. There was a lot of really good shots. But I didn't connect with Keith Carradine's character. He was just kind of a dude. He was just kind of there and kind of was like, why the hell is Fargo? Why is he messing with me? What will he just leave me alone? And then you get to the end, like the second half of the movie, and he's a general, and his legs jacked up, and he's just a dude with a cane, and his sister's like, "Yo, get the hell out my house, go marry this girl down the street."
Pretty much.
He ends up falling in love with her, and he marries her, and she's a lot younger than him. But
even though he says he's not. And then all of a sudden he does.
Yeah. And so, he marries her. And then he saves Pharaoh, whatever, knowing that Homeboy's going to come for him. Knowing that in Russia he told him, hey, the next time we do this, it's pistols. Mm-hmm. And then they end up having a duel. And then Homeboy's who's been all about honor and maintaining honor, and that's why they have to keep doing all these duels, because one couldn't continue, and then another one couldn't continue, and then they had a draw, and yada yada. It was 2 shots, and he tried to shoot a third time. So turned to find out he was a villain all along. But maybe we needed some more development of Harvey Keitel's character. Why does he feel so much honor? Why does he feel such a jerk?
What's this third shots thing you're talking about?
So remember at the end when they're dueling and they have 2 pistols, and it's each pistol has 1 shot, and the rules of the duel were 2 shots. So he shoots the first one, and Keith Carradine lays on the ground,
right,
and Harvey Keitel's checking, and then he shoots again and misses.
Right.
So he's used both his shots. And then he comes up on Keith Carradine and pulls the trigger a third time. Even though, obviously, there shouldn't be a bullet in there regardless, but they agreed 2 shots each.
Well, I mean, okay, so at that point, is where you really got that he was dishonorable, or is that what you're kind of saying?
Well, yes, because the whole time he's been it's all about honor. I mean, and remember, he stabbed him one time, and he's like, when they were fencing, and he was like, "Can he continue?" And they're like, "No," and he walked away. And then, like all the other fights, even the one that was like super, where I guess there weren't other officers or something around, and they were just literally brawling. It was still, they didn't kill each other because there was these like rules and guidelines. And this one, it was, all right, I got a chance to kill you, even though the rules dictate I'm not supposed to. And he just kind of went for it. And
I guess I just kind of got that vibe a little earlier since he was being so slanderous to Carradine's character, saying like he was, saying all this bad stuff about the Emperor, like kind of like bad mouthing him. So, anyways, I just thought it was interesting how you picked up on that there. I guess I'll jump in here with a little bit of my initial thoughts. So in a nutshell, The Duelist is Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, but light. Barry Lyndon has a lot of dueling stuff, has a lot of very similar interior, exterior stuff, but Barry Lyndon is a much more immersive, heavy movie. I hope you enjoy it whenever you see it eventually. You already nailed it with the fact that, that technically it's an amazing film. The score is as good as the score was. It's not very memorable just because there's something always... the sound is always a little different throughout, which helps propel you through it. But when there's never like a reoccurring theme, it's kind of hard to stay in your mind. So that would be my only slant on the score. Or I think I just said that, but all right. Some excellent cinematography of this period French film. Let's see here. But yeah, I was never really locked in at any point of the film and was like, man, I'm really enjoying this. Maybe a little bit in the duels, but the duels are so quick that, as soon as you might feel locked into a duel, then it's over. And it kind of felt silly, like the whole rules of the duel, like you barely nick a guy and all of a sudden it's over, even though the whole purpose of a duel is to kill each other. I thought that was didn't quite connect. Am I off in there?
Well, because they fenced and he stabbed him. It wasn't a mortal wound, but he was too injured to continue. So it's like, oh, we'll continue this later. And then they had the one on horseback. Mm-hmm. And I thought he decapitated him, but I guess it was his hat. But then he had blood in his eyes, so it wasn't fair. So he had an unfair advantage or something. I guess
like nearly scalped him or something. Big chunk out of his head.
And then they had the one where it was they were in the brick building and they were basically it almost boiled into like a fist fight or a wrestling match and they broke him up. And then had the one where he first went to arrest him and he punched him and knocked him out and like the random chick attacked him afterwards. And so it was like they just all kind of ended weird. And it's like, but you're fencing and it's a duel and it's supposed to be to the death. I'm like, you stabbed him. Like, don't you just stab him through the neck,
Yeah, it's like if you don't get a kill shot, it's like, live to fight another day, I guess. I kind of flipped through it back again before we started talking, and just to remind myself what exactly this all started based off of. And so what Keitel kills that guy at the beginning, and the guy at the beginning is related to some like German nobleman, and so Keith Carradine's job is to go arrest him, and he's like, no, I don't want to be arrested. I'm insulted by you wanting to arrest me, so I'm going to challenge you to a duel now. So a pretty senseless rivalry that, talk about shoot / stab the messenger.
Well, there's another movie that kind of starts with, hey, don't kill the messenger, and they do, and then a whole war breaks out, and it's kind of a famous line where Gerard Butler kicks a guy into a well.
Oh, the 300. Okay.
Yeah. So
I thought Carradine was sympathetic. It was kind of cool to see whenever he sees Keitel walking around out of the corner of his eye, and he's like, oh, I gotta make sure I don't run into him. He's gonna want to duel me again. But at the same time, I never really enjoyed watching him. He was this gentleman guy, but I don't know. I felt the same to where it was and his mustache annoyed the hell out of me.
Well, that and
although I did like the other pointy mustaches.
it was kind of hard to be sympathetic for him because like they kept saying like how he was known for being this great duelsman, but like the only duels you ever saw him in were with Harvey Keitel. So his
Hmm.
duels with Harvey Keitel were what were making him famous and helped propel him through the ranks, I guess, because
Hmm.
you don't see any other war. It's a war movie that's not really a war movie. I guess it's a movie
Yeah,
that's
you
set in
don't
the
see any of the
backdraft of the
Napoleon
war.
stuff. They just
Yeah,
mention Napoleon.
yeah, you don't see the rise of Napoleon. You don't see like the Louisiana Purchase. You don't see Waterloo. All you really see is that they go to Russia and you
Hmm.
see some boys frozen and some cannons frozen, and you don't even like, but you don't. There's no battles. There's no,
Yeah.
you just they start out and they're like privates, and then they're lieutenants, and then they're
Hmm.
captains, and then they're majors, and then they're generals, and then there's the fall of Napoleon, and then he's still a general in the Royalist army, and Pharaoh has been arrested, um, even after slandering. Well, he was slandering him against Napoleon, but and then he saves him from being dead, and then we have the last duel. So
What I understand, this was a fairly low budget movie, which is kind of surprising for a period piece. So maybe that is why Ridley didn't really get into the whole army aspect. Maybe that probably would have really janked up the budget.
probably
So
so.
that's that. Um, did it ever feel weird to you that this was a French story with all English actors?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. And I definitely was like, oh, we're in French speaking English. All right. No, no one's trying to have French accents, but
Yeah. Like a few years ago, I would have probably never even noticed that. But like since I've watched so many international films over the last couple of years, it's like, oh, we're in France, but it's British. So
yeah, they're just talking all in Anglais. All right.
yeah,
They're speaking
I,
to queens in France. Gotcha.
you've never seen The Last Emperor, right?
No, I don't believe I have.
That's a Chinese movie that's in English. So I'll be curious to see what your reaction to that'll be whenever we get to that one. It's a great movie,
Uh,
but it's in
is
English.
is it's like not dubbed? It's just in English.
Correct.
Okay. I was about to say, because you was dubbed, I can go ahead and tell you what my reaction is going to be. Not good.
Oh, not all dubbing's bad, but anyways, I digress. Okay. Yeah, I already mentioned the silly military uniforms. They're definitely probably period authentic, but they're a lot to look at. Gosh, that first, I think it was the first duel they had with the sabers, and oh my gosh, like hearing the ting of the blades against each other was like it's almost shot like waves through your body of like, oh, you kind of felt that duel. That was for sure. And
Um,
lots of bosoms. I mean, as a red-blooded American guy, a lot of nice looking ladies in this movie.
oh yeah, there were definitely some good looking ladies, and they definitely were wearing corsets, and so that's. I mean, I guess we needed that to get through this movie. Ridley was like, "Yo, I'll give you something." Um, you had the
But
one
what?
girl who was kind of like like a military groupie kind of, and was living with David Carradine for a while, and then left to
Yeah.
go, I guess, to the guy who proposed to her, and then he ends up marrying the cobbler's daughter essentially. Uh, so
It was nice how each duel kind of had a different feel. Like especially like the jousting duel, I didn't expect that at all. That kind of came out of nowhere, but very cool. And yeah, the fencing duel. I don't recall the one in Russia that much. Like
well, they
I
didn't
think
duel in Russia. It took me a second to realize it was both of them, but like they were in Russia, and I guess they went out looking for supplies, and then like
they
some
just
note.
kind of ran into each other.
Well, no, they went to. He was like, I need a volunteer, and he's like, and David Carradine volunteered, and then they're like around a cart, and a dude on a horse shows up, and Harvey Keitel shoots him, and David Carradine um, offers him some booze, offers him some schnapps,
Yeah, schnapps. That's right.
Yeah, and then he's like, the next time we do this is with pistols.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was flicking back through it just to kind of remember all these duels. Actually, that was the point. Like I broke this one up into two because I started it pretty late at night. I stopped it and then I picked it up and then it was like the 45 minutes of him, trying to get married. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm glad I stopped it there because it wasn't going to get it much better for a while. Yeah, definitely it's. I think it's the third duel. We had talked about it a couple times where they're in the basement and they're really slugging it out. And it's really cool how that starts like mid-duel and really shows how exhausting that encounter was for them to where they pretty much just kind of pass out and, call it a draw once again. One of my favorite shots early on, do you remember when the one chick's breaking up with him and that like the camera is like, it shows them and then there's like this brick wall and then you see like the forest off to the side and then there's like mist kind of going up the hill.
That one I don't recall because when she's breaking up with him, I just recall that she wrote like goodbye on the sword and like paint or whatever.
Yeah,
or
that was slightly after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the shots that really stood out to me. I love like woods and there's the one during the jousting one where it's like the really closely packed together trees. I think that's called taiga, and that looked really cool. It kind of reminded me of the bamboo forest from that one movie we watched, Touch of Zen, I think.
Touch of Zen, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
No, the shot at the end is the big one that stood out to me.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God,
The two of the shot, the one before the one I know you're talking about. I think it's Keitel. You see, kind of like walking on a land bridge from a really far away distance. I thought that one was pretty sweet. And then of course the one of him like looking out into the distance, and you see like this huge waterway on either side of him, which I think that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, and then for some reason they go in on like his eyes, which I like. It was a good shot, but I really didn't feel like it was necessarily needed. Like just him looking into the landscape of kind of like what am I doing now? Because Harvey Keitel or Carradine could kill him. Other dude has no guns. He's got a gun with a shot, and he's like, no, I'm not going to kill you, but the duel's done. In every aspect, I'm going to act like you're dead. There's no more. We're doing this my way now. You're basically dead. You're going to leave me the hell alone. And he just lets him go. And the dude's like, I've been living for killing you for 15 years or dueling you, whatever. And I don't have that anymore kind of thing. And it was, that shot was.
Shames him and he looks off in the distance and he's lost. And it's a deep moment. And that's the end. Fantastic cinematography like we'd mentioned several times before. Russia, that's one of my I think I've talked on the show before about how whenever I see Russian stuff in movies, it always piques my interest. I would have really loved to actually see more of the 1812 stuff, but flicking back through it, it really gets across the point that the reason why Napoleon lost in Russia is because his army froze in those ridiculous temperatures. Yep, and you summed up the whole part where he gets married pretty well. And we had mentioned the part about Keitel insulting him. I probably need to flick back through towards the end. I don't recall the part where so he said like towards the end he actually saves Keitel in an instance.
Where he say, yes, because Keitel's in jail after Napoleon has been overthrown because he was like the most gung ho Napoleon follower, I guess, and then
makes sense.
He goes up and he goes and is like, hey, don't kill this guy, and they're like, hey, he's gonna basically be banished to this island or this one town, and right when Carradine's about to be it's like in the paper, he's coming off of sick leave, he's going to be in charge of X number of troops, and then like the next scene is his two goons showing up like, hey, challenge you to a duel, and he's like, this is royalist country and you're on my land. I can have you killed in a ditch by the morning. He's like, but I have honor, blah, blah, blah. Here's a duel, whatever weapons you choose. And they're like, pistols. I was like, well, they did say the next time we do this would be pistols. So.
Oh, yeah. Now I recall that all coming together.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. So as good as it is, I mean, it doesn't really have the wow factor. I guess that's the best way to sum it up. I think I'm caught somewhere between. I probably would go with a 3.5, just since it doesn't have the wow factor for me. Where you lie on this one?
I mean, I gave it a 3, mainly
Okay.
because of how well it was acted and and the cinematography, but the story and all that was just like it needed something. It needed it to just put it over the top, and it just wasn't there.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll take a short break, and we'll get back, and we'll move on to our challenge movie. We'll see you in just a second. How you doing?
Mr. Mora?
Yeah, Officer Olson?
Yeah, righto.
Well, so I'm tending bar down there by Oakland and Sweden's last Tuesday. And this little guy's drinking, and he says, where can I get some action? I'm going crazy out there by the lake. And I says, what kind of action? And he says, woman action. What do I look like? And I says, well, what do I look like? I don't arrange that kind of thing. And he says, but I'm going crazy out there by the lake. And I says, yeah, but this ain't that kind of place. And he says, oh, so I get it. You think I'm some kind of jerk for asking. Only you don't use the word jerk.
I understand.
Then he calls me a jerk. He says last guy that thought he's a jerk is dead now. So I don't say nothing. He says, what do you think about that? And I says, well, that don't sound like a good deal for him then.
You got that right.
Yeah. So yeah, that guy's dead. And I don't mean of old age. And then he says, geez, I'm going crazy out there by the lake.
White Bear Lake?
Yeah, well, at Auckland and Sweden, so closer to Moose Lake. So so I made that assumption.
Sure.
Anyways, he's drinking at the bar, so I don't think a whole great deal of it. But then Mr. Mora, she said she heard about the homicides down there, and I thought I should call it in. So I called it in. End of story.
Well, what this guy look like anyways?
Oh, he's a little guy. Kind of funny looking.
In what way?
Just in a general kind of way.
Okay. Well, thanks a bunch, Mr. Mora.
You're probably right. It's probably nothing. Sure. Look like she's gonna turn cold tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Got a front coming in.
Yeah. You got that right. Welcome back to the Average Joe's Movie Club cast. And now we're talking about my challenge movie towards Joey this time. One of my all-time favorites, Fargo. You want to kick us off, Joey?
Oh, man. So, I'm really glad you challenged me to this movie.
Awesome.
It was really good. So anybody who had kept up with us last year or, last episode, my number one movie that I watched for the first time last year was The Big Lebowski. So I kind of had a aversion to Coen Brothers movies because I had watched
No Country?
No Country, there we go.
Okay.
It always slips my brain, and did not really care for it all that much. And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I don't really like Coen Brothers movies. Not having realized that Oh Brother was a Coen Brothers movie, which I liked. So I watched Big Lebowski last year. Absolutely loved it. So I was very excited to watch this one. And I loved it. The very like the first thing like I really kind of noticed was
Mm-hmm.
William H. Macy. So I watched Shameless, and
Yep.
so he's kind of like a watered down version of Frank. If anybody's watched that show, because he's trying to like scam for money,
Mm-hmm.
from rich people, and the whole time I just kept saying "fucking Frank" because that's what they say in the show when
Yeah.
he does something stupid.
Frank, but saving face. Like he's thinking like Frank, but he's definitely trying to hold it all in. Unlike where Frank doesn't give a shit.
That's very true, and he's not basically homeless. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and Minnesota, or Minneapolis, or the Twin Cities, as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to Chi-Town. But
Yep.
like man, he was so good in this movie, and Steve Buscemi. Um, and I saw something. I was like looking up some stuff, maybe trying to get some cool anecdotes for the movie, and I didn't really get a chance while I was at Raw this time. It had gotten busy, but so Steve Buscemi's riding around with the dude who plays the hardest ball, his cohort, who doesn't really talk at
Carl.
all, and he's trying to get him to talk, and never talks,
Yep.
and he talks the whole time. And then in his next movie that Steve Buscemi's in for the Coen brothers, all they try to do is get him to shut the fuck up. They just
Oh
tell him
right,
to
with the
shut.
Lebowski. Oh, that's right.
The Big
You're out
Lebowski.
of your element, Donnie.
Yeah.
That's a
So
good point. Yeah, I think I had watched the documentary on Minnesota Nice, and they had mentioned Steve Buscemi and like his roles in like the three movies prior to this, like added up to like 10 minutes. So yeah, they definitely threw him a bone with how much screen time he got here.
Um, no, this movie with the like everybody basically being bumbling idiots trying to like bumble their way through this kidnapping was,
Oh yeah,
oh man, it was so good. It was so good. Like, one of the things that stands out is he has the $1 million and he takes 80 thou out, and then he tries to bury it on the side of the road in
hmm,
snow, which I guess the ground was frozen, so he probably couldn't bury it in the ground, but he still tries to bury it in snow and use an ice scraper
to
as a
mark it.
marker. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, brother, you got to use like a volcanic black rock that stands out, or something, like Shawshank it. Come on, do something. Like, but he's shot in the mouth and bleeding, and like it just and
Got shot in the face. Blood has been spilt, Jerry.
and then he gets like hatcheted and put in a wood chipper, and it turns out the pregnant cop is a super cop, and like
It's a very solid cop.
oh yeah, nah, she's like right on to like everything from the get go. Like I just
Yeah.
yeah, she just gets paid to eat all the time, don't you know? Like
Hey Marge, how's the fricassee? Oh, that's pretty good. You want some? No, I'm good. Hey Lou, I thought you were going ice fishing. Oh, this afternoon I'll go ice fishing. It's just such mundane stuff. Like throughout, like this has to be my favorite 90-minute movie. I started watching this at 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was 2:20. I'm like, oh, it's over already. Gosh, I just every moment of it I love.
speaking about it being 90 minutes, I'm gonna put this in perspective. This movie is 90 minutes. The Duelist is also 90 minutes. The Duelist felt like it was never gonna end. In this movie, I was like, "It's over? Like what? Like
Yep.
what the hell?"
Absolute. So I'll give you a little background on this. So you obviously know that I have family from Minnesota, so it connects pretty well there. To go a step beyond that, like I remember firmly there was this dinner I had with at my grandmother's house one summer in Minnesota, and my uncle was there, and my uncle really inspired me to watch some really great movies. And in the same dinner conversation, I first heard about Pulp Fiction and Fargo. So yeah, that kind of was a life-changing moment. I've seen this film several times over the years. This actually isn't the first time I've analyzed the movie. Well, last time I watched it was 2 years ago, kind of playoff time, and I wrote my letterbox review. But the time before that, I was in college and for a speech class, and this was one of they had a pool of movies you could pick, and I saw Fargo there. I was like, yep, I'm instantly taking that. And so I had a fun time kind of explaining to my team the concept of Minnesota Nice and how all the antagonists in the film are essentially outsiders to that concept. We'll jump back in. What's your next thought, Joey?
I thought it was really interesting that the name of the movie is Fargo, but they're really only in Fargo for 5 seconds at the literal beginning, and then they spend the rest of the time in, was it Brainerd?
Brainerd, yeah.
Yeah, Brainerd, the home of Babe Ruth, not Babe Ruth.
Babe the Blue
Ox, and Paul Bunyan.
Got that big statue up there.
No, not the Bambino. And then Minneapolis.
Yep, Twin Cities.
Yeah, Twin Cities.
Your old guys are full of conversation there.
Man, and I like that. The opening scene, he's driving with this one car, and he's got another car. And at first, the way it's first shot, I'm like, man, he's got some really big snow tires. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's not snow tires. That's a cart of some kind. He's pulling something. Oh, he's pulling a whole other car. And then they go in and they start talking about this plot. And from the moment it's go, I'm like, well, this isn't going to go well. I'm like, the wife's going to end up dead. I was not expecting the thing with the state trooper until it happened. They got pulled over, and I'm like, well, the state trooper's going to end up dead. I think it's shot in the top of the effing head, and I'm like, all right, this movie has went from it's been turned up to 11. The cop or the passerbys drive by, and they just whips it out.
The dumbest look of all time. He's like, oh?
And he just whips the car out. He's like, get rid of the body. He whips it out. And just, they wrecked. Okay. Pops this boy, looks down, shoots the girl. And I'm like, all right, well, this dude is not a guy to be messed with. No. All right, cool. I'm like, just everything about it. And you've got the whole time you've got, William H. Macy. He's just trying to get this money. He forgets about how his son's gonna feel about his mother being kidnapped, but he just wants the money, and he's like,
he doesn't technically need the money. I mean, he's the executive vice president at the car dealership, but he's under the thumb of his father-in-law.
But he has the guy breathing down his neck for the $320,000 for embezzling the cars. One of them, I would guess, is the Oldsmobile Sierra that he's stolen to give to.
Well, what wouldn't be the case if he hadn't pulled? That wasn't part of the scheme. So.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's not like he was out for a loan shark or anything.
Well, yeah, but he did something for these people need his money, and then he fudged the.
Because he stole his own car.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. So he stole his own car and then another car. That doesn't equal $320,000.
I don't know the numbers, but yeah, in order to give these guys the car for part of the scheme, he figured a screwy number thing, it would just slip through the cracks. But no, those the guys at the loan agency are like, no, I can't read this. This isn't legit. I mean, Mr. Lundegaard, you have until tomorrow. I'm losing my patience.
Yeah, because it was apparently it was on two cars, but they said it was $320,000 or something. My numbers are about to be right, but it was more than two cars for the kind of cars he was dealing. Since he's not dealing in Lambos.
Yeah, he might have some other side gigs on the way. Yeah, that is a lot of numbers. I only was paying attention to the one. So, what did you think about the fact that it's based on a true story?
Um, that's that's kind of crazy that something like that went down. Obviously, I'm sure it's been you know movie-tized, and some
It's
stuff
act
was
it,
embellished a little bit.
it's actually not.
Oh, they just made some. They just.
It's a ploy. Yeah, it like the Coens, like they took like real like other real events and like strewn it all into their own little story, and it's kind of poking fun at the whole like based on a true story genre, and so that's kind of their approach. Like I think William H Macy like went up to Ethan Coen at one point and is like, so what exactly was the story this was based off of? And he's like, no, we made it up. It's like, you can't do that. Why not? So, and like whenever you watch the show, like every episode does the whole based on a true story thing in like different ways. It's pretty fun.
Well, that's interesting. Also, speaking of things that William H. Macy did, so he came in and he read, and they were going to give him like a smaller part, and then they liked him, so they had him come back and read for the main part. And
Yep.
then he was like, "I'm going to shoot your dog if you don't give me this part." Um,
Oh goodness. Yeah.
no, he was, or kill your dog. I don't think he said shoot. I think he said kill. Now he was
I hear
very
that
much
one.
joking. He did it very jokingly, but they gave him the part, and then he got nominated for, I guess, best supporting actor.
Really? Wow. That's an
I believe.
you
I
got
believe that's what I remember reading.
undersold there.
I
Yeah, I'll have to
believe
check that. I know
because they won
Francis
two. Because they won like two Oscars for that movie, but then they
screenplay
lost.
and Francis McDormand, yeah.
Yeah, they lost like everything else. Some movie that won like nine Oscars that year.
Yeah, The English Patient.
Yes. So.
Okay. Okay. So I guess I'll go into the Minnesota accent a little bit. So yeah, I used to travel up to Minnesota every summer as a kid, and I remember like there would be like this clear point in like northern Kentucky where like you wouldn't hear like you would like walk into a convenience store and it would just be like you're in a whole different country with no I guess it's more of actually being in Minnesota. I think the Kentucky thing I was getting at was like is when like sweet tea like officially like disappears and like you're like you were like, oh, can I have a soda? Oh, you mean a pop? They have a whole different way of speaking up there. So yeah, you have all the different Minnesota verbiage. You betcha, yeah, don't you know? It's really drawn out slang, and so Minnesota nice. Essentially, like the best way I can describe it is like whenever, like in the movie, whenever you go up to a counter and you see this person with a big kind of silly grin on their face, being like overly nice to you. That politeness, that's essentially what Minnesota nice is. And as I mentioned before, like the antagonists are like a direct contrast to that. And Jerry almost seems like the middle, where like on the exterior he kind of like has like that politeness to him, but he kind of has a sinister side. So let's get into the antagonist a little bit. So you have Steve Buscemi, which is a complete outsider. This is like totally foreign to him. I find Shep really interesting because Shep probably was like, because he's a Native American. He probably is from this area of the country, but he doesn't fall into this kind of like culture of this, these strange, nice Minnesotans. And I guess you could probably consider him as like an original Minnesotan. So he's kind of an outsider in that aspect. And then you have Carl. The interesting thing about Carl is he's probably Swedish. Actually, the Coens actually specifically wanted to cast him for Miller's Crossing because he was Swedish, but he couldn't do it. And so they brought him for this. And just some of the stuff he says, like, oh, I want Pancake's house. If I remember when I was studying Swedish language, things were kind of worded in a different order. So it like whenever I heard that one time, it totally clicked to me that he's probably Scandinavian. And what I'm getting at here is the fact that a lot of people from the Midwest are from Scandinavia, and so he's an outsider, but still has somewhat of a lineage to this whole area of the country. So it's kind of interesting to see like a Native American, like a European, found themselves here, but they're outsiders, based on this whole like little, sphere of influence there. So that I find that extremely interesting, how these outsider perspectives to this whole culture. What do you want to get into next?
It's actually kind of really interesting. Like it's kind of a parallel. It's like Minnesota Nice sounds like it's almost very southern. It's real slow, real nice and polite, and everything takes their time. Except for instead of being insanely hot, it's insanely cold.
Yep.
Whereas like someone from the Northeast would get there and they'd be like, "Why are you guys so slow? Why are you being so nice? I don't have time for this." Like I encountered that one time. Like I was down in Charleston and I was at a train station and I ran into this guy from Boston. Obviously, like he didn't tell me he was from Boston. I could just hear how he talked. And like we're in line, like the train's not there. We're just standing there waiting. And I was like, "Hey man, how are you doing?" I was like 19, 20, something like that. And like dude just started cussing at me. And like I don't have Evan time for your Southern hospitality BS, blah blah blah. I'm like, brother, like calm down, like dude, we ain't going anywhere, blah blah blah. And it was just my first time really interacting with someone from up north that was just in a hurry for no reason. And like
I had a similar experience to that whenever I was in Sweden for several months on a study abroad, and I had flown back into Chicago, and I guess that some of that kind of more laid back personality from overseas kind of was carried with me. And so whenever I got into the Chicago airport and somebody started screaming at me about like lifting my bag like 2 inches, I was like, oh, I guess I'm in America again. I guess I wanted to get into the amazing cinematography of Roger Deakins. Man, there was a scene where I was just marveling, where you see the little teeny car at the very bottom of the screen and this whole huge white, landscape around it, just to really show you how small this story is in comparison to everything else in the world. It's kind of the vibe I get. There's that amazing shot of like looking down at Jerry after he has the failed business meeting and him going up to the car. Would you say there's a character in this movie that you connected with the most?
I can't say that there's one like I really connected with because you've got the wife and she's just kind of there. You've got the pregnant cop and you've got her husband and they just want to be happy and she wants to solve the murder. And then you've got Lundegaard. He's just kind of like this bumbling idiot who's trying to get this thing going. And you've got the two idiot criminals. So like I don't really know if there's one I would say I connected with like on really any level. It was just it was more like I'm watching this and it's I know from the get that it's going to be a train wreck, and I can't stop watching. And,
I'm kind of ashamed to say that I feel like I have a piece of Jerry Lundegaard in me. like the whole scene where like he shows up and he sees that his father-in-law's sitting there watching the hockey game and he's just like, is he staying for dinner? It's like he's like I envision myself as like Jerry's very resilient. Like a plan goes completely wrong and he like finds a way to get around it and do something else. And man, I just love his freak out moments. Like he's all calm, cool, collected, scraping off his window, and then all of a sudden he just loses it and throws the scraper and just goes ape shit. And I'm like, oh, I've done that before.
The best is when the sheriff, she comes back for the second visit and he's like, I'm complying, I'm asking your questions, and then he's just like, fine, I'll go do a lot inventory right now. And then you just see him just driving out the lot. I was just like, yep, I'm out, peace.
Yeah, I've had moments with my wife where she starts freaking out about the house and I'm like, fine, I'll clean the goddamn house, and like I'll spend the next 3 hours like deep cleaning it. I'm like, there, you happy? Oh goodness.
I thought you were about to say it, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll clean the house in the next like, and I went to the movies instead.
No, I'm a sucker. I care way too dang much. If something's on me, I'd go do it. That's just me.
That's probably better than running away, because we saw what happened to him when he ran away.
Yeah.
And
Gus, he's such a bitch whenever he gets caught at the end. Ah, get off me!
Like, what? Mr. Lundegaard, is this your car outside? One moment.
Yeah, just a second.
1 second. I'm like, yeah, this is not good.
So many non-human characters as well. Between, like we already mentioned, the accent, the snow is a character, and
Well,
man,
there's so much snow, and like it has its parts, and they do really like. There's just so much around, and I felt like they shot really well with the snow. Like I don't really how to express it, but like it's there, it's everywhere all the time.
and that was actually one of the warmest winters they had in Minnesota. So a lot of the show was like snow was artificial, or they were having to go like way up north in order to actually find enough to shoot. So kind of an interesting factoid there. Man, the opening shot's so simple. Like, I mean, you just see this car in the mist, and you have that fantastic score that has this very Midwestern flair to it, and it slowly builds and builds and builds to just this car going down the road. But something's about to go down, and and then it just turns totally quirky. Where Lundegaard shows up, and he's just like, "Hey, so I'm here." It's like, "You're an hour late." He's peed 3 times. Oh well, Shep said, doesn't matter what Shep said, and yeah, you said that already. And oh gosh, the dialogue is just fantastic in this movie. It's so entertaining and subtle, but like whenever you're like, I was like really because I recommended this to the one person, and it really didn't click to them how how subtly humor all of this was. Like all these mannerisms and quirkiness. Some people don't get it, but it seems like it clicked pretty well for you.
Oh yeah, no, it was I think it's like kind of right in my wheelhouse. Like I'm really actually looking forward to watching like Burn After Reading now. Like I really, really, really want to watch that. There's a couple other movies I'm wanting to rewatch. But I mean, there's a ton of other movies I want to watch because like I've went kind of nuts at the pawn shop. Like they've just had an influx of movies, people selling their collections. So I've gotten a bunch, but like I really want to watch Burn After Reading. I read the synopsis of that and I was like, nah, I've got to watch that movie. So,
some of my favorite lines, like we had mentioned it in the precursor, dramatic reading. So what was he looking? What did he look like? He's kind of funny looking. And there's no
which kicks back to when she's interviewing the 2 girls and she's like, oh, he's funny looking. Oh, so you had sex with the funny looking guy? Oh, yeah, well, he's not circumcised. So does that help? And it's like,
and gosh, what do I want to say there? Yeah, and it's funny because I mean, Steve Buscemi, is a very unique character actor with a very unique face. So, I mean, not only is it a funny line, it definitely still applies to him in, his appearance, even though, yeah.
Hey, you leave Mr. Pink alone.
And then, so you went up to, she says, like, you went to this certain high school or Chaska or something. Yeah, go Bears. These little lines. That reminds me of the part I caught on to it, watching it last night. Just this little moment where she's, sitting like in this Hardee's drive-through, and you see the old Hardee's logo, which brings back memories, and she's like, "Is this place open?" Just this little moment of like this, like, what you would deal with, in the freezing cold in a morning to get your breakfast from Hardee's.
Speaking of that, so she's sitting in the office and her husband's there, and she's like, "What'd you bring me?" And he's like, "Arby's." And I don't remember a time when Arby's didn't have curly fries, and so either that's a time that's a thing that existed, or the Coen brothers tried to sell me a bill of lies, and that wasn't Arby's. And I
remember you used to have an option.
Okay, maybe but who wouldn't get curly fries?
It's very true, but I don't know.
I don't remember that.
Plain simple folks in Minnesota. Oh, you got Arby's on me there, Norm. Or is it Lou? I think Norm is her husband, right? Is it?
That sounds right. Yeah, Norm. He's a normie. He's a Norm. They're like the most like normal, well acting, just nothing's going wrong couple
Yeah.
like ever in a
Not a
movie
care
or
in the
TV
world.
show. Yeah, he just wants to get on. He got the 3 cent stamp.
Ah, hon, you can sleep. No, Margie, you gotta eat a breakfast. So we'll make you some eggs. Ah, Norm. And it's so funny, like you see all this great build up throughout, and then finally, like the big, like the killings is over, and now all of a sudden Marge shows up, and you're like, oh, we're halfway through the movie, and we still haven't gotten to this amazing character, and man, we haven't even gotten to her breaking down the crime scene. So there was a high speed pursuit, and they killed him execution style. Oh, what do you see down there, boss? Oh, I just think I'm gonna barf. So many great lines.
I got everybody looking for the plates DLR. I think we'll have to revoke your police in there. Call your police into question. I think they had a dealer plate.
Yeah,
And I can't accent, so I apologize. That sounded kind of Irish, not Minnesotan.
no worries. You gotta be immersed in it to fully to go with it. And I don't think I mentioned yet. This is the first So I watched this late at night when my family was home. So I decided to watch instead of on my surround sound speakers, I had headphones. And it's amazing how much more like sounds nuances you pick up whenever you actually listen to a movie on headphones. Especially like the wood chipper. Like I don't think I've cringed that much watching the wood chipper scene ever. That's some brutal sounds coming from that deal. And then also like the amount of tension there is whenever the two guys are in the car there and they're really dreading the cop coming up, and you see the blue light in the background, swirling, and the score is just so tense there, and that's such a great moment. There's so many good moments.
Oh, I was talking about to the wood chipper, and so she's like yelling at him, and I'm like, oh my god, all of this is going to go bad. She's pregnant. He's shown he has no care for human life. He's willing to do anything. And then he runs out onto the lake, and then she's on the lake, and I'm like, oh god, this is gonna, like, every part of me was like, this is all just gonna go bad, like everything, because this is all just gonna go bad. And then it didn't, but I'm just like I'm so tensed up, like everything's gonna go bad here. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
It's funny. I was listening to one guy talk about this film earlier today, and he said that the only character that something bad doesn't happen to him is Marge. And I wouldn't necessarily agree to that, because there is that little scene where she's meeting with like her high school friend, this Amagita guy, and he's like trying to like manipulate her into being with him, which is really strange. I'm not really sure what she's doing there to begin with. So that's kind of a funny scene. And then Jerry's very like misogynistic towards her whenever he's so like annoyed like with her presence like in front of him at the end there at the car dealership.
I mean, yeah, but like nothing like truly bad. Like she doesn't.
Very subtle things for sure.
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
I mean it's not getting shut in the face or getting a hood over your head for sure.
Well, yeah, because that dude, he's like, well, this happened and this happened. He comes to sit beside her, and she's like, yo, no, sit over here. Yeah. And it's like he had called her, and they're talking, like clearly she's married and pregnant, and he's like, oh, well, I dated such and such. She was a year behind us in school, and she's dead. And then it's like, why are you gonna lie to a cop? A cop's gonna be the first person to be like, like, hey, is so and so? Where is so and so? Is she dead? Is she alive? Is she kicking? Yeah. And it's like, yeah. So dude didn't seem real smart. But yeah, that whole scene was kind of like just kind of weird. But I guess it just kind of showed she's like, no, I'm not gonna take your crap. Peace out.
Oh, the Radisson, is it reasonable?
The Radisson.
Oh, they installed that True Code at the factory. Hey, never done this before. I'm gonna knock it $100 off. Apparently Joe Coen, he actually wrote that scene based on an experience he had with a shady car dealership. So that was his real life story of buying a car at one point. Oh, so many good lines and moments. It's just... Got anything else?
This movie was really good, dude. Like, kudos, thank you for suggesting this one.
Let me see. Scroll through here. Man, little details like the fact that like Scotty has like this accordion in his room and like this German poster, which is so like Midwestern. I mean, you would never see, like that kind of stuff in the South from what I know. I love that scene where Buscemi's like freaking out in the cabin or whatever, and he's like banging the hell out of this TV, and it gets real tense. Him getting pissed off at the parking lot attendant. Come on, I just pulled in here. Oh, sorry, sir. It's gonna have to charge you the $4.
Yeah, this is all day parking. Well, it's like, dude, just pay the $4. You switch license plates. Just pay the $4 and be done with it. Also, his reasoning. I just decided not to park here. Maybe like I don't know, the person's flight got delayed and I don't need to be here, or whatever it is, the reason you were parking. Like, it seemed like it was really weird that was his reason. I decided not to park.
And then he's talking to the prostitute, and he's like, "So you find the escort service interesting work, do you?" And she's like, "What?"
Oh, and then Shep pulls the prostitute off of him like mid-stroke.
Oh, and he beats the shit out of him. That's an intense scene. There's so many interesting little scenes that have like these big climaxes to them.
Well, in that scene, no one climaxed, and I imagine that hurts.
Oh yeah, he's wailing.
Because, could you imagine you're just in, she's on top, and then she's just pulled off of you? Like, I imagine that did not feel very good. No. And then Shep beats the dog shit out of him. Like, man. And then, like, kicks the hooker in the ass. Like, didn't he beat up someone in the hallway, too, or something? Like, he just went.
Yeah, just this random dude comes and he's, like, slams him against the wall. And, man, Shep's an animal.
Yeah, well, the reason I guess he was in jail while he was on probation.
Oh, my goodness. And, gosh, you get towards the end of the film and it really kind of sums it all up whenever Marge is in the front of the car talking to Carl, and Carl's completely quiet as usual, and she's just like, man, what was it all for? And just total senseless absurdity. I mean, what's the point? So really wraps it up well there. And it's kind of cool how mirror that is to like the end of No Country for Old Men, where Tommy Lee Jones is kind of saying the same thing. So these films kind of mirror each other in a very strong way, just with this one being in Minnesota, the other one being in Texas. So, yeah, I definitely recommend giving that. No Country for Old Men is definitely a grower, not a shower. I mean, you really have that awesome assassin stuff in that movie. But then it really throws you for a loop, the fact that it wraps up without you really seeing much, and then it kind of peters off at the end. So that one's definitely worth revisiting. What'll be your next Coen Brothers movie?
I think my next Coen Brothers movie at this point is probably Burn After Reading. That's like the one I'm super hyped for. I've been Hail Caesar's been on my radar for a while. I was interested in that one, even with it being a Coen Brothers movie, and I have not seen Oh Brother Where Art Thou in a very long time, so I probably need to revisit that one. But not Coen Brothers, but I really want to rewatch the Birdman and Black Swan. So
okay.
But I've got so many movies. Like I've still got a Zatu Waichi box set. I've got a Samurai. Right. I've got The Killers. I've got Hunger. Like I've just got all of these movies. So
definitely recommend The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. That's a great. That was their latest film. That was on Netflix. That's great. A Serious Man's really good. Inside Llewyn Davis is really good. I don't know why I haven't seen all their movies yet. I do still need to see Hail Caesar, and one I've heard a lot about. What is it? The Hoodsucker Proxy. So some of my lesser Coen Brothers, I wasn't that big of a fan of Blood Simple. That's their first one. Barton Fink was okay. I was a little underwhelmed by Miller's Crossing. So they're a little hit and miss, but man, whenever they hit, they really hit. I mean, obviously, this is one of my favorite films of all time. It's 5 stars.
I also gave it 5 stars.
Okay, so I'm curious. So where will the challenge movie bring us next? And it'll be interesting. the challenge movies are starting to run slim because next season we're going to be taking a much different approach. So look to hear about some of that in in the coming episodes.
So this is my next to last challenge, correct? Looking at this.
Yeah, because you have 2 more movies on your list and I have 3. So
Yeah. So this is my next to last challenge. Okay. So we had a conversation the other day, and this is what decided to make me come to this challenge. So I'm going to challenge you, my good sir, to see Sweeney Todd.
oh, good. Okay, yeah, that's been on the radar for the longest time. I've just have never really had the urge to watch a Johnny Depp musical, but I've wanted to, and I've heard great things. So, have you seen it?
I've seen it, but it's probably been 10-ish, 11-ish years because I saw it when I lived with my baby mama because she was obsessed with Johnny, and that was the time I was also kind of obsessed with Johnny, but I really was into pirates, and so it's been quite a long time. I don't really remember a ton about it, but I do enjoy musicals. So I remember you mentioning that you hadn't seen it, so I figured that would be a good time for the challenge to kind of harken back to movies we haven't seen, because we kind of got off of that for a little while, and we're kind of ending, like you said, we're going to change up the format at least for the second season. Again, be on the lookout for that in the coming episodes, or I guess the last episode, I guess, is when we're going to get into that, is what we decided. So
Yeah, and essentially with that, I think we agreed that we'll probably name like a few up front, and then after that, it'll basically, because I mean, right now you can go on Letterboxd and see what the remaining movies are. We have Army of Shadows, Kicking and Screaming. Is that's all that's left on my end, right?
yes.
And then you have your 2, which we're about to get into.
You're about to name one of them.
Yeah. So yeah, I know. Okay, so we're gonna watch Mulholland Drive next.
Okay.
You're not the biggest Lynch fan.
Well, I think I've only seen the one.
Blue Velvet, right?
Yes.
Now there's a little bit of. I know you like the romance, so there's a little bit of that in there. Man, this movie is. I mean, I've seen it twice, and I know like after I watch it again, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck? And I'm gonna have to go back to the YouTube, and I'm gonna have to listen to people break this thing down all over again, and it's a lot. I mean, just be ready for it to be like one of the artsiest things you've seen, and just accept the weird and see what heads or tails of it. I mean, I remember, I think it might be 2 years ago now, where I actually, or maybe like a year and a half, where I watched it last, and I broke it all down in my Letterboxd review. But I mean, it's there's so much there. So yeah, there's actually a new David Lynch short film on Netflix right now called like "What Did Jack Do" or something. It's David Lynch talking to a monkey for 16 minutes, and hey, maybe you should watch that right before going into this, just to get on his wavelength, because it's David Lynch. Blue Velvet's kind of its own thing. I think to really understand what David Lynch is all about, you got to eventually watch Twin Peaks. But yeah, I think Mulholland Drive's his masterpiece. So it was actually well, you haven't seen Eraserhead, right?
I have not.
Okay, Eraserhead's up there in kind of the weird David Lynch realm. But yeah, well, yeah, Blue Velvet definitely has that more mean-spirited thing, which I think rubbed you wrong. And
That's not necessarily mean-spirited. I mean, I like revenge movies. Like, that's one of my favorite subgenres. And I mean, those are just all about being mean. Like, I finally got to rewatch Old Boy, and I watched Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, and oh man, because I got that whole Arrow box set, and we finally have the region free Blu-ray player, and finally got to watch that, and it was Oh, man, it was so good. I had forgotten how good Old Boy was, and just all the different little nuances in that. So
I'm looking forward to it. It's intimidating. I think Mulholland Drive is going to be the most intimidating film we've come into since Persona. Like after I watch Persona, and I'm like, all right, we got to go to the airways and talk about this beast. And it's it's that level of like I want to do it respect, but cover all my bases. And yeah, Mulholland Drive is a biggie. It's definitely we'll be talking about it a lot longer than we were the Duelists. So
all right, well that's good, since the Duelist was just kind of there. Yeah, and pretty sure that same one's sitting on Carl's shelf, so that should be easy for us to watch.
Yep, it actually started out as a he was going to do another show on ABC, and then they canceled it and they turned it into a movie. So, and Naomi, you a Naomi Watts fan?
I mean, I like Naomi Watts. I've seen her. I think it was like in 21 Grams, and which was a long time ago. Was her in like Bendicio, and seen her in some other stuff. So I mean, I don't have anything like against her. It's just been a while since I've seen her in anything, and at this point, so
nice. All right, so. I think we're winding down here. So thanks so much, everyone, for following the show, listening to all our movie talk. I mean, this show's all just about talking movies, adding stuff to your playlists, and, maybe inspire you to watch something new or think about films in a whole different way. We're just average guys, just doing our best to watch movies and pull all the meaning you can out of them. So... yeah, if you want to join the club, make sure to mash that subscribe button. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you would like us to answer a question on the show, just send it to the Average Joe's Movie Clubcast at gmail.com. And also on that note, if for some reason that's just a little hard for you to remember, you can go to our Facebook page and hit the email button, and it'll do it for you.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, we don't like to be overly negative. I think if we start trashing a movie, I think we try to give as much like feeling and like understanding to it as possible. I don't think we ever really say, yeah, man, that's just a pile of shit and move on. So that's one of my pet peeves when I watch other shows. Like, I never want to just want to throw it to the side and not explain why. So I hope we accomplish that here.
Yeah, for the most part. And again, these are always just our opinions. If we come in and this is some movie you absolutely love, and we're like, yo, we didn't like this movie, just keep in mind, we're not trying to, devalidate your opinion. Like, that's totally your opinion. Like, I know earlier in this specific show, I was like, yo, Boondock Saints 2 is garbage, don't watch it. Like, that's my opinion. Like, if you love that movie, like, by all means, enjoy that movie. But, like, as for someone who loves the Boondock Saints, has it rated as my second movie of all time, like, the Boondock Saints 2 was a horrifyingly bad disappointment. So, like, that's just my opinion. So, like, yeah.
Don't you know? All right. Happy movie watching, everybody. Let's go.
Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you so much.
You and I have unfinished business.
Oh? And what's so stinking about it?
The moment you capture the feeling, it's the director starting.
I think this just might be my masterpiece.